addressing her with reverence as if she were a saint. His voice sounds sincere respect and awe, as if he sees in her something higher and inaccessible. Holding her hand, he slowly approaches the girl, leaning over her ear, whispering softly that he would offer her anything for a chance to be near and useful to her. His words sounded sincere and willing to give of himself, as if the desire for closeness and mutual help were more important to him than anything else. When the girl turned 24, she suddenly found herself transported to another reality, as if the flesh of her being had become part of an uncharted world. Only after she awoke, rising from the grass on which she had suddenly appeared, did she realize that she was in another dimension where reality intertwined with the unknown, as if she had become a participant in a mysterious transition between worlds. When she realized this fact, she scrutinized her own body. Her hair and clothes were completely different from those that belonged to her in her usual reality, as if these changes were a symbol of a new and uncharted path to be traveled. The girl looked around, finding a crowd of people in white hoods bowing before her. This unusual assembly, led by a white-haired man, created a mysterious atmosphere around them, as if welcoming her with special attention and respect in this new and unknown world. The guy leading the mysterious group pressed his hand to his chest, greeting the girl with special reverence, addressing her as God's Grace. His words sounded like a mysterious greeting, as if he saw something divine and sublime in her presence. Naturally, such an appeal could not but stir the heart of the young girl, who only a few moments ago had mysteriously crossed the boundary of her own reality. At that moment, she felt a sense of excitement, as if each word sounded like a note of an unknown symphony filling a new stage of her life. In this new world, the girl suddenly gained the status of Saint Emilion. Even with her talent as an actor, becoming a saint in one day was no easy task. Nevertheless, she readily accepted her new assignment, preparing for a role that opened up uncharted frontiers of spirituality and responsibility. Learning from her own mistakes, Emilion has been here for 6 months now. During this period of time, she has become an integral part of a world where reality intertwines with the mystical, and every day brings her new lessons and challenges. In a way, she was recognized as a saint after all, and so she was allowed free access to the palace. This new position opened the door to a world of power and decision, giving Emilion a chance to influence the mysterious realm where the spiritual and the mundane intertwine in a marvelous dance. Emilion was eager to stroll alone in the garden, having arrived early on purpose. However, her plans were disrupted when a certain couple overtook her, ruining her desire for solitude. The new element of society in the garden brought unexpected notes to her intricate landscape. It was a black-haired girl with emerald eyes, Lanella Nestro, the daughter of the Duke. Next to her was a mysterious young man, the son of some marquis, which gave the empire even more mystery and influence. Together they made a striking appearance, becoming an object of discussion and admiration in the palace gardens. Emilion reflected that if this world were the world of a novel or short story, it would be the kind and beautiful Lanella Nestro who could hardly escape the status of protagonist. Her appearance seemed to blend together not only beauty, but also that mystery that is so beloved in literature. At first, Emiliona felt a sense of envy for the Duke's daughter, for she was always surrounded by statuesque men. Now, however, she was extremely glad she hadn't fallen in love with one of the men swirling around her. Emilion realized that becoming a protagonist adored by everyone, or even a saint worshipping the protagonist, might not have been so exciting, given the possible transformation into an antagonist. Such plots were well known to her from the novels of her past world, and now she thanked fate that she hadn't gotten sucked into such an intriguing but complicated plot. That's not to mention that she had too much in front of her to learn before she even considered topics like men and relationships. Emilion had a vast amount of knowledge and skills that she was eager to master before delving into the realm of complex and mysterious relationships. And that's not to mention that the difference in the behavior of those very same statuesque men is quite different depending on who is standing in front of them. They hold one attitude towards the Duke's daughter and a completely different one towards Emiliona. Emiliona distinguished between attention and looks that implied not only general respect, but also interest in her person, regardless of status. All love was directed solely towards Lanella Nestro, which was noticeable even to the naked eye. That was why Emilion had no expectations about it. She realized that this world had its own laws and dynamics of relationships, and her focus was on her own path and learning the secrets of this wonderful new world. Lady Lanella suddenly announced that all expenses would be reimbursed by the duchy. The boy, however, unwilling to accept such a thing, replied that it was unnecessary, and holding out the book to her declared that it was a gift from a pure heart. There was a casual generosity in this gesture, as if he wanted to give her something selfless and special. However, the girl pointed with her finger and said that such expenses should be compensated. Her decisive gesture confused the young lord, as if he had not expected such insistence and readiness for financial responsibility. Blushing, the girl covered her embarrassed smile, saying that she was still happy about the gesture. She also mentioned that she was scheduled to meet the crown prince soon, as if to lighten the mood and emphasize that she still had a lot of exciting things to do. However, she was only thinking about leaving Mr. Itoa as soon as possible. Despite the appearance of a smile and politeness, she secretly longed for freedom from this obligation, as if she doubted the compatibility of their personalities and goals. Peeking out from behind a bush, Emilian glared at the couple, wondering if they seemed to be flirting. Her attention was caught by their interaction, and she began to ponder the possible dramatic twists in their story, worrying about the future of this unexpected connection. At that moment, Lanella Nestro's face twisted, replaced by the expression of a typical villain, hypocrisy where actions and thoughts do not match. This unexpected turn of events shocked Saint Emilian, exposing to her the mysterious and dark sides of Lanella's personality that she had not suspected. Emilian, frozen with surprise, appreciated the incredible pretense. Such acting could not go unnoticed, for a real spectacle was unfolding before her, astonishing in its beauty and virtuosity of performance. The maiden turned around to meet His Highness. Her steps were full of grace and determination, and the echoes of the mysterious spectacle that had just been played out before her eyes echoed in her soul for a long time. After greeting His Highness, he ordered Emilian to sit down. The girl mentally noted that it was insolent of the honorable lord to invite her and not even greet her. But observing the etiquette and keeping her inner discontent secret, Emilian seated herself nicely, showing an outward display of nonchalance. Casadora Macron Vezaloyal, crown prince of the Vezaloyal Empire, stated that he wanted to speak with the holy maiden. While the prince expressed his intentions, Emilian, while maintaining her outward politeness, scolded him in her thoughts, believing that Mr. Casadora had turned his nose up too high because of his position. The saint said that she was listening attentively to the prince, while her thoughts were filled with lamentations that despite his handsome appearance, his character left much to be desired. The prince himself wasted no time in telling her that the hunting competition organized by the imperial family was about to begin. The prince continued, telling her that a banquet was planned after the hunting contest, and that he would need Emilian's help. This statement struck the girl herself, leaving her somewhat perplexed and inwardly hesitant. However, in the next second, things became clearer. The crown prince mentioned that it was not his initiative to have Emilian participate, but Lanella's idea, as he affectionately calls Lanella Nestro. Emilian put a hand to her own chin, thinking that she needed to find out more from the crown prince, so she immediately asked him the reason for all this. The prince replied that he had only a hunch and told her that he had recently informed the sanctuary of an increase in the number of monsters. Emilian listened intently, trying to unravel the mysteries that might be connected to these unexpected events. Since the competition would be held in a large area in the forest, there was a good chance that monsters might appear. Apparently, Lanella Nestro has thought about that, worrying about Prince Casador's safety. Therefore, she wants Emilian to be by his side at this time, under the pretext of a banquet. This circumstance caused Emiliona to think again and ponder on how she could contribute to his safety. Emilian wondered if the Duke's daughter truly loved the Crown Prince if she was so concerned for his safety. Only a moment ago, she had been flirting with another young man, which raised further questions and doubts in the holy maiden's mind about the sincerity of Lanella Nestro's feelings. She remembered Lady Lanella Nestro's smirk, wondering if there were devious plans behind that sweet smile. Doubt crept into Emilian's soul, creating an invisible veil of mistrust of the Duke's daughter's mysterious intentions. Settling back in his chair, the Crown Prince stated that he was well aware of Emilian's dislike of visiting such places. While others might have taken it as a mere comment, To Emilian, it was an acknowledgement that he was paying attention to her preferences and was trying to accommodate them. However, wrinkling his smarmy face, he still asked Emilian to respect Lady Nestro's wishes and accept her invitation. Such a thing amazed Saint Emilian. In her mind, she could only marvel at the fact that the crown prince could still smile. It was a small but important detail that added a new nuance to her perception of Prince Cassador, perhaps shattering stereotypes about his character. Emiliona confirmed her participation by nodding and expressing her willingness to take part in the upcoming event. Hearing a satisfactory answer, the crown prince gently bade Emilian farewell and informed her that Lady Lanella would be arriving shortly. The saint recalled the overheard dialogue between Lady Nestro and the Marquis's son, realizing that the prince was telling the truth. All these events were part of the complex mosaic of her life in the New World. As she left the hall, Lady Emilian bade farewell to the prince, bowing to him in an exquisite bow. Mixed feelings filled her heart, and she only fleetingly regretted that she would not get a glimpse of Lady Nestro's harem. But at that moment, on the threshold, an unexpected voice caught her attention. The red-haired Halo greeted Lady Emilian cheerfully, bringing a touch of freshness to the atmosphere. Emiliona responded to his greeting with a warm smile, expressing her joy at seeing him. As Emperor Vesaloile watched them, he noted in his thoughts that this was the first time this meeting had taken place right here within the castle walls. Saint Emilian greeted Halo with a genuine smile, emphasizing the joy of this unexpected meeting. She asked with interest where the young man was going. Embarrassed, Halo replied that Lady Lanella Nestro had invited him. The bright Emilian, sensing a certain mystery in the air, decided it was certainly worth broaching the subject. With a touch of curiosity, she asked Halo if Lady Nestro was the one she had in mind. After all, she was well aware that the Duke's daughter was scheduled to meet the crown prince. Emilian looked up and listened attentively to Halo's answer, her eyes sparkling with anticipation of the mystery behind those unspoken words. The red-haired Halo Lastwin was a little embarrassed by the sainted maiden's words. His confidence that Lady Nestro had invited him was in question. Alarmed, he answered Emilian's questions somewhat uncertainly, struggling to find the right words to explain the situation. Lady Emilian's heart hammered with compassion as she watched the embarrassed Halo. She realized how important it was to comfort the Empire's thinker, feeling that the poor fellow had just been ditched. A ray of tenderness flashed in her eyes, and she decided that at this moment it was most important to express support and understanding. The picture finally came together in Lady Emilian's mind. She realized that the beautiful image of Lady Lanella Nestro, with which many men were in love, was just a mask. Emilian realized this, and felt the secrets that had previously remained in the shadows unfold before her. Emilian was undoubtedly taken aback by this unexpected news. Nevertheless, she realized that watching an earl's daughter maintain the facade of a sweet and charming lady was far more entertaining than watching a truly kind and sincere person. There was an echo of disappointment mixed with curiosity in this discovery. The evening setting sun was sinking majestically below the horizon, its rays streaming through the windows like living wisps of fiery fabric. Each ray was a soft, golden feather shimmering in the last touches of the passing day. The orange and pink hues filled the room with warm light, revealing even the most secret corners. The sun, like a whole palette of oriental masterpieces, luxuriously spread its colors across the room, creating a dance of light and shadow on the walls and furniture. The air was filled with light reflections of gold, bringing the evening atmosphere of mystery and grandeur. Nestled comfortably in bed, Emiliona drifted into thoughts of the upcoming hunting contest. The shining rays made her wonder if the Duke's daughter cared about her challengers, or if there was something mysterious and enigmatic lurking in her soul. In the dark twilight of the room where the light of the sunset played, her thoughts wove complex patterns of doubt and expectation. A sudden oppressive feeling swept over Emilian, bringing with it a physical tension, as if an invisible weight was being placed on her shoulders. In that moment, the air became thick and the atmosphere in the room saturated with mystery. Her thoughts, like swift, shadowy images, danced in a whirlwind, and her heart beat with an accelerated rhythm like a harbinger of something unknown. This oppressive feeling, imbued with physical tension, was a kind of innate sense of the future provided by God himself. Emilian felt that this was not a mere allegory, but a real prophecy in which the secret threads of time were revealed. In her inner world, foreshadowings and predictions were taking off, like luminous stars in the heavens of the vast future to come. In this exciting moment, like an encounter with the unknown, Emilian felt like an astute guide between the world of the present and the mysteries of what was yet to come. On a dark night when the only light was the moon, Emilian's room found itself illuminated only by the soft moonlight. Letting out a long-awaited exhale, she finally came to her senses, releasing the fingers that clutched her blanket in tension. Strange premonitions still pulsed through her mind, but for the moment, she found herself alone with her thoughts in the silence of the night. Unable to accept the heavy burden of a prophecy given by God himself, the girl remained seated, immersed in thought as if trying to cover herself with her own hand from the exciting forebodings. Her eyes reflected her struggle with the unknown future, and every thought seemed to be framed by coils of mysterious contradictions. In this quiet moment of self-discovery, Emilian sensed that something dark and mysterious would appear in the days of the upcoming competition, like a monster hidden in the shadows of destiny. Excitement rent the air, and determination flashed in her eyes to face the challenges that the divine threads of time had prepared for her. People strolling near the fountain at the hour of dusk are animatedly discussing the latest news. Amidst quiet whispers and muffled laughter, the news spreads that as many as 5 monsters have been spotted in the county. Against the reflections of moonlight in the water of the fountain, their conversations sound tense, as if every uttered step in this hour could lead to something mysterious and dangerous. Some of the strollers couldn't help but express concern for the health of the Count and Countess after the recognizable news. A stately man holding a glass of wine in his hand made a reassuring statement, claiming that fortunately all possible measures had been taken in time to resolve the situation. His words sounded resolute, but there was some inner tension lurking beneath the surface of his expression. The air was filled with an odor of anxiety and expectation, like a guilty harbinger of something unusual. The man complimented that the knights boldly employed a strategy, using the commoners as live bait. With a cunning plan and combination of forces, they had quickly and successfully defeated all 5 monsters. His story turned out to be a little bright ray of light in the dark stream of rumors and worries, raising the spirits among the listeners. Under those words, as if after a storm, there was a sense of relief in the air, and people began to exchange smiles as they sat down on the stone benches by the fountain. At these words, some of the audience expressed their recognition of the genius of the plan adopted. They declared that the Count had done the right thing in getting rid of the monster menace, and even expressed their displeasure at those beggars used as bait. The heated discussion filled the evening air not only with rumors of what had happened, but also with various opinions about the effectiveness and morality of the measures taken. Listening to such statements, Emilione felt nauseous that she was in a world where she was praised for such a cruel strategy. But what was even more agonizing was that this strategy had only been devised and implemented because Saint Emilione had warned of the attack, revealing the prophecy given to her by God himself. She felt the weight of responsibility for the events that followed, and her heart trembled with the bitter realization of the consequences of her caution. The scene changes momentarily. The Holy Maiden rises from the bed again, clutching her head. A soundless cry of pain bursts from her chest. Emiliona, twitching in the half-light, realizes that this is the second prophecy of the impending monster attack. The weight of this warning sinks back onto her shoulders, like an unknown burden responsible for the secret threats lurking in the darkness of the future. Monsters are beasts of chaos, entities that embody a storm of disorder. That is why they pose an extremely high danger to humans. This new information that has surfaced from the sacred tidings gives the situation an additional aura of menace. The seeds of chaos, like spilled poison, can produce unpredictable consequences, and fear grips not only Saint Emilian but all those who know the true nature of the monsters. However, these creatures have a single weakness: divine power. It is for this reason that the sanctuary takes on the responsibility of fighting the monsters. In their hands lies the power to resist chaos, and serving this divine mission becomes their sacred duty. Thus, in light of the new information, it becomes clear why it is the sanctuary that has been given such an important and dangerous burden of guarding the world from dark forces. Indeed, the problem is that Emilian has no information about how many monsters to confront and what level of threat they pose. This uncertainty creates additional difficulties in planning and preparing for the challenge ahead. Questions surrounding the extent of the danger and methods of combat remain a mystery, and the Holy Maiden is forced to make decisions relying on her faith and wisdom to confront this dark threat. Faced with the lack of information about the number of monsters and their threat level, Emilian realized that fighting these creatures carried varying degrees of difficulty. The lower-level monsters could probably be handled by ordinary knights, but those of the highest threat level required divine power to destroy. This awareness of the complexity of the task brings fear and an understanding of how dangerous these dark creatures are and how important it is to prepare for them with the utmost seriousness. It was for this reason that Emilian began to contemplate the possibility of reporting the prophecy in order to cancel the upcoming hunting contest. However, the boldness of this move was haunted by her fears. She feared that the aristocrats might once again use the commoners as decoys, and the intervention of the Holy Maiden might lead to unexpected consequences. The inner conflict between her desire to avert danger and her fear of the possible horrors that might befall the commoners imprisoned Emilian in a hard inner duel. The Holy Maiden cannot allow such events to happen again, but she realizes that the tournament organizers are unlikely to cancel the event over trifles. The internal conflict between the urgent need to avert the threat and the realities of life in aristocratic society presents Emilian with a difficult choice. She must strike a balance between protecting the commoners and preserving the norms of the aristocratic way of life, in which tournaments and jousting play their own important role. Thinking about this difficult situation, the girl came to the decision to simply observe what was happening. Happy to be invited to an aristocratic event, she decided to take a passive role and follow the events closely. Emilian realized that observing the tournament would allow her to maintain a balance between her sacred mission and public expectations without putting the commoners in unnecessary danger. Suddenly, Lenevin was pulled out of her musings, calling to her from behind the window. This unexpected intrusion forced Emilian to rise from the bed and walk over to him, heading for the door. Lenevin seemed to have caught her attention with something important, and there was a flicker of curiosity and a growing sense of responsibility in Emilian's eyes for what might lie beyond those walls. The high priest with snow-white hair, clasping his hand to his breast, met Emilian with a graceful greeting, addressing her as the grace of God. There was a deep reverence in his voice, and his gaze, as if illuminated by the light of faith, filled the space with majesty and holy blessing. Emilian felt that this visit promised something important and sacred. Emilian was surprised at the early visit of Lenevin, for he had left so hastily, and she had expected him to be late. But the high priest himself answered the question, explaining that Emilian had given him permission only to stay until supper time, and he could not disobey her orders. His words sounded subordinate and eager to follow the instructions of the Holy Maiden, which emphasized the importance of the meeting and the seriousness of the topics to be discussed. The girl herself began to reflect on the boy's primness, mentally noting that her words did not sound like an order, but at the same time she could not help but appreciate his loyalty and devotion. As the situation stood, it was clear that Lenevin was taking his role seriously, honoring the established boundaries and showing devotion to his holy mission. Emilian mixed in her thoughts a sense of wonder and appreciation for this young high priest. Lenevin followed Emilian's back to the dining room, his gaze wandering thoughtfully and a sweet smile playing on his face. It seemed as if a reflection was brewing in the high priest's heart, and at that moment his smile seemed to reflect something light and pleasant. There was something special in the silence of the corridor, as if the excitement of the coming conversation gave the meeting a special color. Noticing the oddity in the high priest's demeanor, Emilian turned to him, questioning the reason for his brooding. Lenevin himself, however, looked away in embarrassment, unable to come up with an answer, as if his thoughts were too private to be shared. In silence, his eyes slid away, leaving the girl with a sense of mystery behind this unexpected pause. Without waiting for a normal response, the Holy Maiden asked Lenevin where he was going that day, noting that he seemed very concerned when he asked for permission for his excommunication. Her attention to detail and concern for her guardian clearly peeked through in every word, and Lenevin felt he would not escape her answer. Confused, meeting her gaze, the high priest began to explain his activities, maintaining a dialogue that promised to reveal the secrets of his recent absence. To this, Lenevin replied that he had been summoned by Lady Lanella Nestro, proposing that he and the thinker Halo take part in a hunting contest. His story became animated as he began to recount the meeting, and in his eyes he read a mixture of intrigue and excitement at Lady Nestro's offer. Emilian took these words in, sensing that the events that arose around them might hide not only dangers but also important twists in their sacred mission. It was the sort of response Emilian had expected to hear. She responded, saying that she was glad that Lenovin's visit to Lady Nestro was not a serious matter, for she had begun to worry as she noticed the high priest's hurry. There was a slight smile in her words, as if she had released some of the tension, recognizing that this moment did not portend any ominous changes in their fight against the monsters. Suddenly, the high priest, blushing, put his hand to his mouth and with a crimson face declared that Lady Nestro had never before called him to her first. Without noticing it himself, he added that he was probably overexcited. At that moment, an incredible combination of shame and joy flashed in Lenovin's eyes, as if the unexpected honor had caused him to shiver inwardly. Emilian couldn't help but smile, seeing the high priest's sincere reaction. Emilian pressed a hand to her face, trying to cover her smirk. She was delighted that Lady Nestro had managed to seduce even the high priest, and she casually said aloud that she would enter the contest as well. There was a tinge of playfulness and determination in her words, as if she had decided to accept Lady Nestro's challenge and enter this unusual hunting competition with full enthusiasm. Emilian looked away, wondering who would be the one winner who could win Lady Nestro's inaccessible heart. Her eyes reflected not only intrigue, but also the realization that there might be many contestants in this competition, but only one could win the sincere love of the mysterious lady. While the maiden was absorbed in her thoughts, she was suddenly distracted by the announcement that Emilian was being visited by the Duke's daughter, Lady Lanella Nestro. At that moment, Emiliona's inner peace was interrupted, and a slight flicker of alarm flashed in her eyes. She was ready to welcome her guest, but her heart began to waver in anticipation of meeting the mysterious Lady Nestro. Emilian naturally inquired as to the purpose of Lady Nestro's visit. However, the maid replied that Lady Nestro simply wanted to meet the saint. At these words, Emilian was surprised at such a move, noting that Lady Nestro had not even warned her that she was coming. There was a note of bewilderment in her voice, and she thought that this visit might have some unexpected twists and turns. At this, Emiliana decided that she would listen to her guest after all. She ordered a maid to escort Lady Nestro into the drawing room and prepare tea. There was a touch of determination in her decision, and she prepared herself for a meeting with Lady Nestro, where perhaps new secrets and plans would be revealed that would affect their common destiny. Lanella Nestro greeted the holy maiden, addressing her as a divine grace. There was a pleasant admiration in her voice, and her eyes sparkled with a certain secret joy. The meeting of these two mysterious women foreshadowed something great that would unfold in their lives. Emilian also greeted Lady Nestro, noting that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. The embarrassed Lenovin, covering his crimson face with his own hair and shadowing his bow, bowed to the Duke's daughter. At this moment, some kind of tension hung in the air, as if each of them was hiding something important, and only time could reveal the secrets of this meeting. Lady Lanella Nestro, covering her face with her hand, apologized for such a sudden visit. She said that she did not wish to take up the saint's valuable time, but that she had an urgent matter to discuss. There was an air of mixed excitement and determination in her voice, as if the upcoming conversation was laden with secrets and important decisions. Emilian asked if the conversation was private, offering to let Lenovin go. Lady Nestro, however, quickly declined the offer. There was something mysterious in her refusal, and Emilian sensed that the question she had asked related to something deeper and more important than ordinary encounters. Lady Lanella said that the subject she had to discuss was a very heavy one, and she would be much more at ease if Mr. High Priest was around. She asked Emilian to leave Lenovin alone. There was uncertainty and some anxiety in her words, as if the upcoming discussion was about something that required Lenovin's special support and involvement. For a second, the Holy Lady's gaze became very heavy, but in the next moment she calmly asked Lenovin to stay by Lady Nestro's side. There was something in that request that could not be conveyed in words, as if Emilian sensed that Lenovin's support was important in order to deal with the difficult topic that was about to be discussed. The high priest offered the count's daughter a napkin to wipe away her tears. Lady Nestro nodded gratefully to Mr. Lenovin, noting that too many scary things had been happening to her lately. It often made her eyes wet, and she appreciated the concern for her comfort at such a difficult time. As of late, someone has been threatening Lady Nestro. Having gone to Lady Chiron's tea party, she suddenly found her knights murdered. There was a tinge of worry in her story, and Lady Nestro's eyes filled with a shadow of alarm as the mysterious threats concerned not only her personal safety, but the safety of her courtiers as well. Such a statement greatly surprised Emilian, but that was not the whole story. There were many strange things going on around Lady Nestro. Personal belongings were missing, and sometimes she woke up in a room other than the one she had fallen asleep in. However, none of the maids saw or heard anything suspicious. These mysterious events created an atmosphere of mystery and uncertainty, as if a shadow of suspicion slipped over Lady Nestro's castle. Emilian wondered if the girl was telling the truth or playing a role, while Lady Nestro continued her story. Watching every word carefully, the holy maiden realized that the upcoming story could lead to the unraveling of mysterious events and perhaps to the discovery of who was behind this mysterious threat. Lady Lanella Nestro, with her prominent status and influential pedigree background, has stated that her entourage has decided to increase security measures, bringing in additional guards. This has sparked interest in the community and among Lady Nestro's admirers. Lanella's father also failed to hide his anxiety. Against the backdrop of influential circles where every action could have an impact on the political atmosphere, such security measures could be interpreted as a sign of rising tensions or potential threats. It is likely that the father, as the protector of his daughter, feels deeply disturbed by the events. Despite all the measures taken, the perpetrator was never identified. This underscores the complexity of security in a world where threats can be sophisticated and difficult to detect. The investigation is ongoing, and the community awaits developments as they try to understand the reasons for the tightened security measures around Lady Lanella Nestro. Lady Lanella Nestro, faced with growing uncertainty and turmoil in her life, decided to seek the help of Saint Emilian. This move seems to indicate a deep spiritual need and a search for protection in the person of the saint. This turn of events emphasizes how important the spiritual dimension can be for people facing uncertainty and tension in their lives. Lady Nestro, by enlisting the help of Saint Emilione, expresses her hope for guidance and protection in the divine realm, and the community is left waiting to see how this spiritual practice will affect her destiny. Saint Emilian, with her knowledge of monster prophecy, carefully pondered her decision to get involved in this unusual endeavor. With an understanding of the threats ahead and an awareness of her role in protecting the community, she finally made her decision and agreed to accept the responsibility. Emiliona's decision reflects her deep faith and willingness to serve the community by confronting the ominous prophecy. Her willingness to get involved in this difficult endeavor shows the strength of her character and her dedication to the good. Perhaps she sees her mission as utilizing her spiritual and significant knowledge to combat the dark forces threatening the world. Such a decision may also have an impact on those around her, instilling hope and inspiring them to pursue their own spiritual quest and actions. Emiliona, by stepping in, brings with her not only her power and knowledge, but also spiritual guidance that can be a key element in defending against the evil to come. Lady Emilian, realizing the importance of her role in the events, strongly expressed her willingness to take on the task of securing and searching for the criminal. Approaching the girl, she carefully asked how exactly she could help, expressing her willingness to lend her knowledge and resources to the situation. Emiliona, seeing it as her spiritual duty, offered to take charge of the guard for a few days. She inquired about the details of the events, asking questions about what had already been done to find the perpetrator and listening attentively to the answers. Her offer covered both physical security and active participation in the investigation, indicating her willingness to take on the multifaceted aspects of solving the problem. In this way, Lady Emilian provides her knowledge, experience, and resources to work with the girl to find a solution to this difficult situation. Her willingness to take responsibility can be a source of support and encouragement to those around her, creating hope for a successful resolution to a difficult situation. Lady Nestro responded gratefully to Saint Emilian's offer and explained that the matter of tracking the criminal was already being handled by her father. However, her direct request to Saint Emilian was specifically for protection. Lady Nestro expressed a clear desire for support and physical security, seeing Emilian as a reliable guardian willing to provide her protection during this difficult time. This agreement by Lady Nestro to work with Emiliona can be taken as a manifestation of trust in the saint's spiritual qualities and abilities. Saint Emiliona, in turn, may take on the duty of guarding, endeavoring to provide Lady Nestro with a sense of security in a difficult environment. Saint Emilion replied to Lady Nestro with great devotion and consideration that she was ready to take over the duties of the guard as of the following day, covering the period until the tournament began. This decision of the Holy Maiden emphasized her determination to accept the responsibility and give Lady Nestro the protection she needed during this period of uncertainty and anxiety. Lady Nestro, in response, expressed her gratitude to Saint Emilion with a smile. This smile probably reflected not only an acknowledgement of the help offered, but also some relief at knowing that she now had a reliable support in the person of Saint Emilion. The Holy Maiden Emilion, having decided to involve the High Priest of Lenevan in securing Lady Lunella Nestro, expressed her request to the High Priest the moment the Duke's daughter was on her way out of the room. A smirk appeared on Lady Nestro's face, which Emilion took with some amusement, unsurprised by this outcome. In her thoughts, the Holy Maiden noted that she was amused by Lady Nestro's acting. Perhaps Emiliona sees some degree of theatricality or strategic thinking in this girl's behavior, which probably adds to the interest in interacting with her. Her calm reaction may also suggest that she did not expect different behavior from Lady Nestro, given the complexity of political intrigue and the powerful status of the Nestro family. The next day, Saint Emilion, as agreed, arrived at Lady Nestro's house. The girl herself greeted the saint with a smile and gratitude for her presence. Lady Nestro's smile probably reflected recognition and respect for Saint Emilion for her willingness to take on the responsibility of guarding her. Lady Nestro expressed her gratitude to the Holy Maiden for the support she provided, emphasizing the importance of her presence during this difficult period. Thus began a collaboration between the two women, their meeting being the first step in ensuring Lady Nestro's safety. This moment may also underscore the friendliness and openness of both parties, creating a favorable atmosphere for joint efforts to secure and investigate the mysterious events surrounding Lady Nestro. Noticing several inappropriate manners in his daughter, the Duke addressed Lady Lunella, reminding her of the importance of adhering to high standards of etiquette and nobility. This action by the Duke probably expressed his desire to emphasize the importance of maintaining dignity and good manners in high places. At the same time, Duchess Nestro greeted Lady Emilion, expressing her joy at seeing God's grace. This praise of the Holy Maiden may indicate the high standing of Emiliona's sanctity in public perception, as well as the perception of her role as a blessed and noble person. The Duke's blushing daughter, reacting to a reminder from her father and a greeting from her mother, found herself somewhat confused. She, following her parents' example, greeted Lady Emilion, calling her God's grace. In doing so, she expressed her excitement, probably indicating her nervousness or emotional strain. Lady Emilion, in response to the greetings and blessings, expressed reverence to all present in the name of the Lord. She remarked that she had not expected such a personal meeting. Her words testified to her modesty and reverence before the high status of the ducal family. Duke Nestro responded by emphasizing the importance of this personal encounter, pointing to the fact that Saint Emilion had undertaken the long journey for the safety of their daughter. His words spoke of recognition and gratitude for the saint's efforts in keeping Lady Nestro safe. The Duke also invited the saint to make herself at home, which emphasizes hospitality and recognition of the importance of Emilion's role in the current situation. This moment may also influence the dynamics of the relationship and the future course of events, giving new nuances to the setting of the story. Lady Lunella, with obvious respect and welcome, took Saint Emilion under her arm. With a broad smile on her face, she led the saint inside, expressing her gratitude and concern. Lady Nestro stated that as long as Emilion was here, she would personally ensure that the saint was not denied anything and that she was comfortable. Saint Emilion, moving through the corridors of the luxurious estate of the Duchy of Nestro, scrutinized the spaces around her. The thought of how magnificent and luxurious this place was rang through her mind. Her idea of Duke Nestro's estate matched what she could expect from the owner of such a majestic title and wealth. Saint Emilion's inner admiration and wonder at the majestic architecture and luxury of the estate is palpable in her thoughts. This detail adds a new aspect to the story, the contrast between her spiritual awe and the external luxury of the world in which she finds herself. Such observations may also influence her perception of her surroundings and her interactions with members of the ducal family. Lady Emilian noticed a dramatic change in Lady Nestro's appearance and demeanor. She noted that Lady Nestro seemed completely different from the frightened girl who had sought the saint's help yesterday. In expressing her note of this change, Saint Emilian may have realized how powerful the influence of her presence and care had been on Lady Nestro. Lady Nestro, responding to the saint's remark, expressed her gratitude for the concern shown. Her smile indicated that today, knowing that Saint Emilian was beside her, she felt much more confident. This reaction of Lady Nestro may indicate a strengthening of her spirit and sense of security in the presence of the saint, which creates an additional aspect of character interaction. Saint Emilian, politely responding to Lady Nestro's words, expressed her joy that she was feeling better. However, the saint maiden's thoughts suggested that the girl might be lying. Emilian realized that yesterday's tears were part of an act, and she wondered if Lady Nestro's parents were involved in the lie. Observing the behavior of Lady Nestro's parents, Saint Emilian wondered if they were truly aware of their daughter's present condition. Perhaps the behavior of the Duke and Duchess encouraged Emilian to believe that there were reasons to be concerned for Lady Linella despite her outward confidence. This moment adds complexity to the plot, raising questions about Lady Nestro's real motives and condition, which may influence the course of events later on. During Lady Linella Nestro's offer to dine together, Lady Emilian, outwardly accepting the offer with gratitude, was pondering the possible threats that might await Lady Nestro. She pondered the possibility that perhaps the girl was actually threatened by something, but Lady Nestro had decided to use the situation to her advantage. Saint Emilian's inner reflections emphasize her observant and cautious assessment of the situation. She realizes that Lady Nestro's facade of ease and confidence may conceal various secrets. This perplexity in the face of mysteries left unsolved adds intrigue to the plot and emphasizes Saint Emilian's determination to solve the mysteries and protect Lady Nestro. In this way, the dinner becomes not only a time for pleasant conversation, but also an opportunity for Saint Emilian to observe closely and identify subtexts in the surroundings. Emilian, impressed by a rather good meal in the company of the beautiful but enigmatic Lady Nestro, felt the absence of male company around her. This certain loneliness added a dull tinge to her perception of the moment. Instead of simply enjoying her lunch, the holy maiden decided to take her plans in a different direction. This turn in Emilian's thoughts may reflect her desire for variety and activity in her daily life. She may be deciding to use her free time more productively by making plans and thinking about future actions. This episode adds additional dimensions to Saint Emilian's character, making her a more multifaceted character who seeks interest and meaning in different areas of her life. The sudden change in the atmosphere around her aroused the curiosity of Lady Linella Nestro. Asking Saint Emilian why she was so active, the young lady hinted at her curiosity about the saint's energy and determination. Saint Emilian may have sensed that her activity was noticed and explained her vigor as a consequence of her duties and dedication to her purpose. She may have clarified that her role often required her to take initiative and respond quickly to changes in the situation. Such a moment might also offer an opportunity for deeper exchanges and character traits between characters, creating new relationships in the story. The sudden change in atmosphere caused Saint Emilian some surprise. Lady Nestro, realizing that her question might seem unusual or even disruptive to the general tone of the conversation, apologized for her questioning. She explained that her question was not asked with the intention of intrusiveness, but rather out of pure curiosity. Such a moment in the communication between Lady Nestro and Saint Emilian may emphasize the importance of understanding and respect in their relationship. Lady Nestro may be seeking to break down any misunderstandings or ill feelings that have arisen because of her question and continue the conversation in an easier and more open manner. Lady Linella looked at Saint Emilian and said that this saint was so different from the previous saints that it was hard to compare. Emiliana, hearing such words, fell into thought. She remembered that this was not the first time she had heard such remarks. When she had first crossed the threshold of this world, people had treated her and her saints with respect, but the attitude towards the sanctuary, this place where heaven and earth merged, had been far from favorable. These reflections of Emilian's were like a shadow wandering through her memory, reminding her of the difficulties and contradictions in dealing with people and the perception of the saints and the sanctuary. Some invisible chords resounded in her soul, giving depth to her desire to change her views and the inner world in which she finds herself. The sanctuary, where people were endowed with divine power from birth, was a place of extraordinary kindness. This magic, bestowed from above, made the hearts of its inhabitants especially warm and responsive. Mutual understanding and care for each other became an integral part of their existence. The excessive kindness of the priests and saints of this place was expressed not only in favor of their neighbors, but also in the desire to help everyone in need. It was more than just kindness. It was a force that transformed the world around them and filled it with light and harmony. In such a society, each person was not just a possessor of divine gifts, but also a bearer of extraordinary inner beauty. Despite their divine kindness, the people of the shrine were always in an uncomfortable position. Even if someone tried to take away their portion or take advantage of their generosity, they accepted it with a peaceful calmness, showing no opposition. Their souls were enriched with the blessing of divine love, but it seems that this gift only enhanced their capacity for patience and self-denial. This character trait created an atmosphere of exceptional humility and refusal to confront, even in situations where most would have resigned themselves to their own offense. Perhaps it was not so much a manifestation of weakness as of fortitude that allowed them to maintain their unwavering goodness, no matter the circumstances. In Emilien's eyes, life in the sanctuary seemed on the verge of abstinence and poverty. Unlike her predecessors, she resolutely set about improving the system. Emilian realized that the great goodness of priests and saints should not lead to constant humility in the face of hardship. With energy and drive to change the status quo, Emilian embarked on reforms, introducing new ideas and approaches. She saw the richness of her gifts as an opportunity to improve not only the lives of the saints, but also to raise the standards of their society. Such innovation aroused not only support, but also resistance from those who preferred to preserve the old traditions. Emilian, being not only a saint but also a leader, paved the way for change, seeking to achieve a balance between piety and living comfort for her people. Emilian replied to Lady Nestro, recalling that she had answered similar questions many times during the meetings, believing that the information should have been clear to all. Lady Linella, however, expressed her puzzled viewpoint, claiming that she had heard of the saint's high activity to protect the sanctuary. According to her, the saint was chosen from outside to prevent a bleak future for the church. However, Lady Nestro could not understand why the saint continued to be so active, given that the sanctuary was already thriving. This confrontation explores not only the character's opinions, but also emphasizes Emilian's internal contradictions. Her determination and activism is perhaps questionable even to those who admire her loyalty. It also creates an additional layer of mystery around the saint's role and her duty to the sanctuary, emphasizing that the forces that can change the world can carry complex and multifaceted motivations within them. A sudden heavy atmosphere enveloped the space again. Lady Nestro said that Saint Emiliona was so active because she lacked something. Emiliona, unexpectedly discovering such a viewpoint, replied that she was indeed possessed by greed. This statement by Emiliona brought an unexpected twist to the conversation, like a dark imprint on a blank page of Sanctuary. Perhaps her honesty about her own shortcomings had struck those around her as perplexing and disturbing. In that moment, she seemed to express her inner turbulent feelings as if she were at a crossroads between a sacred calling and dark temptations. With a look of determination in her eyes, Emilione took the champagne glass in her hands and put her lips to it. As the sparkling bubbles popped in the glass, she said that if she kept trying with the same determination, things would soon change for the better. These words, accompanied by the sound of glasses clinking and champagne shimmering, created an atmosphere of optimism and hope. Inside the sanctuary, where the warm glow of the shrines combined with the sparkle of the drink, Emilione's words reflected her belief in the power of change. Such a moment seemed to promise not only personal overcoming, but also prospects for all who shared her desire for positive change in their holy abode. It was an exciting morning on the day of the long-awaited hunting competition. The air felt not only the freshness of the beginning of the day, but also the atmosphere of the upcoming adventure. The long work of protecting Lady Nestro was coming to a close, leaving behind a trail of tension and anxiety. Emiliona, her gaze filled with determination, felt a rush of adrenaline, preparing for the next phase of her calling, the moment when the protective mask gives way to freedom and hunter's urge. The prospect of new challenges in the wild, where shrines and magic will serve as allies in the world of hunting and wildlife. The high priest enthusiastically praised Saint Emilion for her outstanding work, knowing full well that she had performed a true miracle. However, for a moment of praise, she managed to find only humility, stating that unfortunately she had uncovered absolutely nothing that could potentially threaten the noble Lady Nestro, contrary to her desire to identify any, even the smallest trace of unhappiness. Lenevin, having shown attention to the progress of Duke Nestro's investigation, eagerly expressed his interest in the details. However, upon his inquiry, Emilion refrained from divulging the information, claiming that she had not discussed the matter directly with the Duke. Regardless, she hinted that the investigation seemed to have encountered some difficulties, and perhaps even reached a dead end. Emiliona came into deep thought, realizing that the turmoil caused by the murder had taken its toll on her soul. Her uneasiness only increased when considering Lady Linella's mysterious reaction, which seemed quite strange. As a consequence, the saint felt unable to simply stand by and ignore the matter. While thinking deeply about how to effectively involve the priest in the investigation, suddenly the entire team focused their attention on one point. The majestic carriage in which the crown prince had arrived blew the world away, causing instant excitement and awe in the hearts of everyone present. The girls, stunned by the prince's majestic appearance, instantly joined into small groups, animatedly discussing the shining star of this great competition. The conversations embraced his charisma, elegance, and irresistible appearance, as if they were soaring on wings of enthusiasm. While the ladies gushed passionately about the prince, the saint only stared wistfully into the distance, noticing his carriage glittering on the horizon a few kilometers ahead. Suddenly, Lady Linella Nestro stepped out of the carriage behind the crown prince. The crown prince, as a gesture of courtesy, extended his hand to her to ease her down, but this polite gesture caused perplexity in the minds of the women who were watching. Talk now flashed through their minds of possible relations between this noble pair, and each such gesture added fuel to the fire of their fantasies. Suddenly a new carriage reappeared, from which Enesis stepped out. His appearance inspired a sense of freshness and elegance that instantly brought a new dynamic to the surrounding atmosphere. Lady Nestro, as if energized by the flow of his energy, lit up in the brilliance of meeting this charming guest. Duke Anisis Kasian, Lady Linella Nestro's faithful childhood friend, entered the scene with unbreakable grace and commanding presence. Emilion, just one glance at him, was enough to feel that his heart belonged to Lady Nestro. In the lightning twinkle of his eyes, Emilion caught a bright trace of amorousness that seemed to illuminate his soul. Saint Emilion looked around carefully, casting a glance at the surroundings. Given the presence of the eminent imperial thinker Halo Lastuen, there were already, by count, 4 influential men here, drawn to Lady Nestro. Such attention from such diverse personalities could not help but please Emilion, reinforcing her confidence that the noble Lady Nestro was undoubtedly the center of their attention and admiration. Emilione felt a real desire to watch this exciting spectacle, but she had to remain vigilant and beware of unnecessary scrutiny. And just at this critical moment, Lady Nestro ran up to the saint in an upbeat mood, trying very loudly to attract her attention. Lady Linella Nestro's loud cries caused whispers and whispers among the crowd. All present were amazed at this unexpected display of emotion coming from a pious saint attending a hunting contest. It was considered an unprecedented event, which only added to the interest and attention to what was happening. Such an unexpected event momentarily enraged Saint Emilion. Nevertheless, restraining herself with all her might and overcoming her excitement, she showed her inner peace and serenity as she greeted Lady Nestro with dignity and respect. Suddenly, Enesis, with an appeal in his eyes, slowly approached Lady Linella, politely asking her for a handkerchief. The majestic moment where he asked for a symbol of love and support gave the act twice the grandeur and importance. It was not just an act, but a deep ritual where every look and gesture was filled with meaning and tenderness. Lady Linella, with a graceful movement, unfolded her handkerchief. displaying the embroidery in Enesis's favorite colors. The Duke, however, remaining phlegmatic, saw something more practical in it. He asked for the handkerchief to be tied around his wrist, as if he preferred to see the symbol of their bond closer to him, relying on non-verbal interaction, ignoring the purple patch. Saint Emilion could not resist her curiosity and turned her attention to the crown prince. On his sword she also noticed a shawl, already of a green hue, which probably indicated that this symbol had been given to him by Lady Lanella. This detailed emphasis only reinforced in the saint's mind the notion of how multifaceted and complex relationships could be in this world. Crown Prince Macron Vesaloyal of Casador addressed Duke Cassian, uttering the words that all preparations had been completed and so it was time to depart. Lady Nestro expressed her sincere wishes to Crown Prince Casadore Macron Vesaloyal, confidently hoping for his future triumph. She then turned to Enesis, advising him to be especially cautious of the upcoming event. At this time, Emiliona, standing nearby, added a modest but sincere wish for a safe journey. The most awaited hunting competition had finally begun, and with that came the moment when it was time for the ladies to start small talk while waiting for their sweethearts or simply favorites. The incredible atmosphere around provided an amazing backdrop for conversations about adventures, strategies, and hopes, turning the waiting into a fascinating conversation about the upcoming events. Suddenly, from behind the saint's back came a shrill cry. The knight seemed to shatter and collapse silently at Emilion's feet, his eyes expressing inexpressible fear, but he seemed unable to declare the incident. Emilion immediately knelt down beside the knight, anxiously asking what had happened. The knight, barely containing the trembling in his voice, said that the crown prince had been attacked by a monster. The tension in the air instantly increased, and the saint's heart hammered harder upon hearing about this misfortune that suddenly struck the hunting competition. Such a statement highly fueled the panic in the hearts of those gathered. Emilion firmly stated that casualties had to be avoided, emphasizing the importance of preventing any harm. The knight responded by explaining that the signal fire meant for timely warning had failed to light for some unknown reason, deepening the sense of anxiety and worry. As Saint Emilion solemnly emphasized that the fault did not lie with the knight. Her mind scrolled through her reflections on the fact that she had previously scrutinized the area without finding the slightest trace of monsters. This fact only added to the surprise and suddenness of the attack, causing a sense of heavy responsibility for the safety of those who took part in the hunting contest. A trembling knight, like a resounding alarm bell, solemnly reported that from the looks of it, the monster was an above-average threat. Many had already rushed to the scene where the unpredictable danger had blossomed, but alas, most of them suffered injuries, highlighting the seriousness and urgency of the situation that required utmost attention and decisive action. Saint Emilion insisted that the knight provide the exact coordinates of the location so that additional forces could be sent there. However, her attempt was interrupted by a shout from the imperial thinker. The latter sought to stop Lady Nestro, but she rushed toward the forest as if snapped out of her seat, crying out for some urgent danger. Saint Emilion followed the Duke's daughter without losing her resolve. Her eyes burned with the undying fire of determination, for she believed that Lady Lanella was unlikely to have gone to the crown prince without a second thought. It was more likely that the noble lady had thoughtfully left the rear, knowing that the saint would not remain indifferent and would surely run after her into the deepest parts of the forest. The strong odor of blood wafted through Saint Emilion's nose, causing her to become anxious and wary. Alarm bells rang in her soul, for this scent of blood was a portent of something unusual and perhaps dangerous. Something unusual was happening nearby, and the saint, being a guardian of justice, was preparing herself to meet the challenge that this unusual aura carried. Lady Nestro, like a caring phoenix, flew to the place where the crown prince lay like a wounded lion. She soared through the skies with stirring beauty to be a secure wing in this dark whirlwind. Casadora Macron Vesaloile, like a ship in a storm, felt his heart rise on an exhilarating wave of relief as he met the gaze of his only support in this trying moment. Peeking out from behind the trees, Emilion was like the incarnation of two hell, marveling at the fact that the crown prince was able to talk. This momentous revelation offered hope, as it suggested that his wounds might not be as serious as they might have seemed. A dagger flew out of the thicket like a serpent, touching Saint Emilion's delicate skin. The sudden strike, like lightning on a clear day, interrupted the moment of relative safety, causing the saint to flinch in surprise. Dumbfounded by the appearance of the Holy Lady Nestro, Emilian, as if under the power of magic, was surrounded by questions about how to heal the crown prince as quickly as possible. The saint's heart beat with an increased rhythm, realizing the urgency and responsibility before this challenge. Lady Emilian, like a healing fairy, proceeded to treat the crown prince, expressing concern that the recovery process was incredibly slow. This fact could not help but attract Lady Nestro's attention, and she did not hesitate to ask the saint about the reasons why. In response, Emilian suggested that the slow healing might be caused by the monster's poison, which apparently causes the wound to reopen, ignoring even the saint's power. Lady Emilian, like a healing fairy in an epic, noted that she had given first aid, injecting all her expertise and devotion to the sacred rites of healing into the treatment. She specified that once the poison left the crown prince's body, it would get noticeably better. There was faith in the power of natural healing in her words, like a wind that would dispel the clouds of darkness. All they had to do was return, and the path to healing would open before them, like magic waiting to happen. As the monster stepped into the light, its horrible form took on an outline resembling a huge slug. Lady Emilian and Lady Nestro had a momentary wave of revulsion explode inside them, like a flood of inner horrors. The incomprehensible feelings in their hearts mingled. It was like a hypnotic nightmare, where familiar reality merged with the nightmarish current. Their gazes seemed to be frozen with horror at the inhuman form, as if they were in the very center of a nightmare. The crown prince, who had not yet fully recovered, resolutely drew out his sword adorned with a green scarf, and, as if he was the embodiment of chivalric decision, covered Lady Nestro with his body. He stood before them as if a gate guardian, ready to protect them from the invasion of darkness, even while still in the process of recovering. Lady Nestro, covered by him, felt his resolve like a warm cloak protecting her from the winds of an ominous threat. However, Emilian did not let the crown prince show heroism. She resolutely covered him with her own body like a shield from the darkness and said that she would definitely save him. Her words sounded like an oath permeating the air, and in that moment she became not only a saint, but also a protector, ready to confront the most evil incarnation. The Holy Maiden noted that it was this monster's venom that kept the prince from recovering. Her eyes slid over the monster's body, where huge traces of battles with many knights were left. However, despite the weakened state of the monster after such a massive clash, Emilian was still worried. After all, this was the first time she had encountered a monster that exceeded the lowest threat level. There was tension in the air, as if it was an omen of uncharted dangers. Emilian took off her gauntlet, determined that she would be able to deal with the monster anyway. At that moment, she realized that if the monster hurt her even once, the battle would instantly end in her favor. Her hand was so confident and unwavering, as if she was willing to walk the thin line between life and death for the sake of her determination and the protection of those she was protecting. The huge slug swung its tentacle, striking the ground, making Saint Emilian nervous. The power of the blow created a huge poisoned pit that revealed bottomless hidden dangers. Emiliona, standing before this monster, suddenly felt the pressure of the moment, where not only her own life, but the fate of those she was protecting were threatened. The saint began to contemplate how she could defeat the monster, preserving her life, and yet not allow herself to be killed in this whirlwind of danger. The Holy Maiden took the golden aura of determination in her hand and finally decided to attack, taking advantage of the moment when the monster could not yet decide on its target. The golden aura surrounded her hand, giving her divine power, and she quickly headed towards the slug like lightning. At that instant, the air resounded like a victory hymn, and the saint embodied her determination in a powerful strike. With one precise and powerful blow, the saint left a huge hole in the body of the giant monster. The power of this blow was so great that the whirlwind of destruction struck even the crown prince behind her. At that moment, Saint Emilian realized that her actions carried both risks and responsibilities for those she protected. Splattered with the monster's blood and venom, the Holy Maiden announced with a look of peace on her face that the monster was dead, and there was no reason to worry. She, as if a symbol of peace after the storm, held out her hand to the prince who was frozen in anticipation. At that moment, an aura of healing and protection was in the air, as if the saint had become a living symbol of victory over darkness. Like a magical moment struck by such a token of attention, the crown prince, with wide-open eyes looking directly at the holy maiden, silently and reverently extended his hand to her. There was a note of romance in the air, as if the magic that enveloped them at that moment implied the secret feelings slowly awakening in the crown prince's chest towards Saint Emilion. Suddenly, a panicked Lady Nestro stopped the crown prince, as if seeing the flaring spark in her lover's heart. Fear and anxiety reflected from her eyes. The future seemed unclear and frightening. The possible consequences of her burgeoning feelings led to her sudden panic. Decidedly frightened, she tried to draw the prince's attention to herself, as if trying to keep him from uncharted dangers. Emiliona finally realized that she was covered in blood, figuring that the prince wouldn't touch her. Suddenly, however, the crown prince grasped Saint Emilion's slender hand as if oblivious to the signs of battle, and they made their way to safety, where the shadow of danger vanished, giving way to a tender moment of rescue and gratitude. The holy maiden looked on, completely unaware of what was happening. It was obvious from her paradigm that the crown prince should be wiping Lady Nestro's tears right now, not holding Saint Emilion's hand. She did not understand why the prince was refusing to pay attention to his beloved, for her idea of the correctness of the scenario was so radical that mixing roles seemed to her something anomalous and mysterious. Suddenly, Emilion remembered the people fighting the monster. With her determination and concern for her neighbors, she stopped her group and gathered herself to go back for the wounded, as if sensing that their need could not be forgotten in the shadow of triumph over the monster. Lady Lanella Nestro tried to stop the holy maiden, saying that Lady Emilion should heal his highness first, as if emphasizing the importance of caring for the crown prince's health, even as she made her triumphant return after the battle with the monster. Not at all surprised by this statement, Emilion, realizing the world she now lived in, told Lady Nestro to return to safety with the prince. She said that there would be someone there to take care of him, as if to remind her of the importance of care and support in difficult times. However, the prince himself wanted to follow Saint Emilion, and because of this, Lady Nestro urgently had to press his pity. She said that if he did so, she would suffer, as if trying to arouse the crown prince's feelings of compassion and keep him from venturing into uncharted territories. Thinking that even in a situation like this, the duke's daughter was still playing her part, she told the two of them to return as soon as possible and walk towards the wounded. Her voice sounded not only concerned that everything was in order, but also a certain grace, as if Lady Nestro was still playing her game even as the shadow of battle cast its shadow over their daily lives. Because Emiliona, a shrewd saint, remembering the prophecy about the monster attack, brought many priests to the hunting competition, the situation was quickly brought under control. Thanks to their knowledge and experience, there were no human casualties. Now all that remained was to heal the prince's wounds to restore his strength after the battle with the monster. A new picture flared up right before the saint's eyes, and a wave of emotion swept through her soul. Duke Anisus Cassian, like a whirlwind of passions, was yelling at Lady Lanella for running into the forest. The duke's hot words hung in the air, filling the space with implacability and excitement. At that moment the saint, as if listening to the harmony of the stirring feelings around her, realized that a new turn of events was looming on the horizon, and she would have to meet him face to face.